In this edition, I'll be asking the question, how long does it take to learn a language? And my response will be, how long is a piece of string? Or as they say in German, warum ist die Banane krumm? Why is the banana crooked? In French, they just say, qui sait, who knows? That's because there is no fixed answer to that question. But what I will say is that you should make intermediate your goal. I'll explain more about that as we go along. A lot of people, when they start out on learning a language, they say, I want to be fluent. Of course, fluent is a difficult word. It's not easy to define exactly what you mean by fluent, and I think fluent is often used wrongly. I'll talk about that another time. One of my past students said, I want to be able to understand people talking to each other in the foreign language in the meeting, so I know what they're saying about me. But to understand native speakers when they're talking to each other is actually one of the most difficult things, because they're using a more familiar type of language that they would use to friends and family, and that's often the most difficult. They might even be speaking in a dialect, who knows? It's not a good idea to set a very high goal like that. Whether it's speaking fluently, now people say the word fluent, as I mentioned, they think it means that you can speak it perfectly without any hesitation, but actually there's more to it than that. It's a problematical word, fluent. They say they want to be able to function in the language and be able to chat to people and have a conversation. Well, that's starting to get a little bit more realistic. So what I say is that your goal should, at the beginning at least, not to be fluent, and it should not be to understand native speakers talking to each other. That goal is too high. What I would say is that your goal should be to reach intermediate level. Anything above and beyond that is a bonus. But the main goal is to reach intermediate level. What do I mean by intermediate? Well, it's kind of halfway from beginner to advanced. You can understand. You may not be able to understand everything, but you can read stuff. You can understand people when they're talking pretty well. You can cope with the media, reading newspapers or websites, social media posts. You can understand them reasonably well. And once you've reached intermediate level, then you can only keep on moving up, because you're not going to forget what you've learned by intermediate level. You have it. It's an asset. It'll stay with you. And then you can build on it. When you're at intermediate level, you can really make something of the language. You can really benefit from the knowledge of the language when you're in the country. And you can just enjoy the media of the country. When I say the media, you can go into the magazine shop at the airport and you can pick out a magazine on a subject that you're interested in. And you can understand quite a lot of it. Maybe not everything, but maybe 50-60%. When you're starting out, intermediate should be your goal. You can take the magazine to the salesperson and you can pay for it and ask simple questions in the language. You can function pretty well. And that would be intermediate level. So how long does it take to get to intermediate level? I've heard the words fluent in 3 months, but it is not possible to become fluent in 3 months. It's not. Let's say for most people, it would only be if you had all your time available for learning the language, perhaps in the military where they have to train people in the foreign language in order to drop them behind enemy lines like it was in the Second World War. And so they would spend all their time, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, learning, practicing the language. They could reach a very high level, maybe even close to native speaker standard. But for the majority of people who have a job and family commitments, you have much less time available for learning the language. So you have to keep that in mind. So the question is, how long will it take you to get to intermediate level? If you are, let's say, a inverted commas normal person with commitments, whether it's a job or family or whatever. I reckon you can do it in around 2 years, maybe less, maybe a year and a half. Or maybe a bit longer. Of course, it's difficult to define exactly what you mean by intermediate, but reaching that level is possible for, I would say, the majority of people. Now, 2 years to some people might sound like a long time, but how long did it take you to learn your native language? Well, it was a lot longer than just 2 years. In 2 years, you could possibly build up a YouTube channel like my other channel, or maybe setting up a small business, or maybe setting up a blog or anything like that. It doesn't happen overnight. You can't buy instant high-level language competency. It takes time and effort, but it's fun. People don't enjoy it enough, I would say. For me, learning a language is fun. When I'm at the early stages of learning a language and I'm learning new words and phrases and I'm gaining in knowledge, to me that's a very enjoyable process, and I feel happy that I'm making progress in a new language. It's fantastic. So enjoy learning and also be aware of how much you've learned already. Sometimes it's actually quite good to do a basic test and actually see, wow, actually I know quite a lot I didn't realise. So many students, especially those learning English, have gone much further than intermediate level. They're already onto what you would call advanced level, maybe C1, C2. So what about them? Do they sit and rest on their laurels? No, they need to continue to learn as well. But a lot of them don't. They think, I know English now, I'm okay, my English is good, I don't need to consume lots of content every day, I'm fine. No, you can't do that. You've got to keep improving. And the only way you can improve is by continuing to use the language, to find out information, to practice. And if you do that, you can progress to the highest possible level. I'll talk about that another time. So that's my message. How long does it take to learn a language? To reach intermediate level? A couple of years. Maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more.